Emerge Community Church podcast. We pray that the Lord would use this resource to speak to your heart and that it would bring you defiant hope and joy in whatever season you're in. We hope you enjoy and are encouraged by this message.
I want to open with a poem. I was praying this week and I got this imagery in my head, and then I just started doing it, and sometimes that's the way things work. I don't really know where the poem's going. I just start. and so I just went with what I felt like God led here. So it's called Birdies, not golf birdies. Two little birds building a nest. No pain in here, no room for pest. Two little birds feeling so safe, fuzzies and twigs and twine all affray. The more that they build, the more they are home, just two little birds being alone. Eggs they get laid, growing inside, two little birds with three babies alive. Cozy nest turns from safety to need, the babies' mouths open, screeching to feed. Give me your food, give me your life, give me your time, the screech is a knife. What happened to my nest? What happened to fun? What happened to happiness? Now I just run from worm to silence the screech. The nest that I made no longer brings peace. I can't even breathe. Where's space for me? I just want to leave. I want to be free. Two little birds made a home for themselves and didn't realize it was for someone else. They were selfish. They knew it not then, but pain has a way of cleaning our lens. It sends a message called truth to the daydreamer's mind, to the naivety of youth. Pain and great need crush our false dreams. The ones that are lies, the ones we believe, will lead us to happiness, to fulfillment, to joy, to all that we've wanted, the hope of false voice. The hope of safe haven, the hope of salvation created for us, it's our compensation. Two little birds growing more than their kids, releasing their dreams, releasing their twigs. Not freely or happily, but because the kids must have something better than a gurgly gut. But, yes, there's a but. There's something called love that's better than what the two little birds had by themselves when there was no need, when they lived on a shelf, selling themselves to the highest bidder. Whatever makes me happy will be my winner. But to love someone and to love without cost, to love like just everything you own is a loss. To know so deeply the pain and the fear, and yet give yourself fully without bribing your tears with what's in it for you, with what's yours or your right, to know in your heart that true giving is light. But momentary affliction removes us from our addiction to the perfect nest depiction that we can have selfish conviction, and translates our hearts, just like Mama and Papa Bird, to the babies around us, though their need is absurd. We realize our nest was never our own. We're just two little birds creating love's home. I was, of course, thinking about parenting when I was writing that, and I had this debate after I wrote it. I was like, how many baby birds should it be? As I write these poems, and I'm like, I don't really know how many baby birds there should be in this poem. Because, a bird doesn't go one at a time. They lay a bunch of eggs and the babies hatch. For us, it's one at a time. Usually, some people get twins, and it's way too much immediately. But I was stuck on this. God, should it be one baby bird? And I was like, no. And then I started thinking about my life, and I'm going, at what point did it reach the place where it was just way too much for me? Well, at what point did it reach the place where I had to give up everything in my life, it felt like? And I'm sure that wasn't the case. But at what point did it feel like that for me? And for me, personally, it was 3. It was when it got to the place where me and my wife were outnumbered. You got 2 kids crying and the third one starts crying. You only have 2 hands. It's 1, 2, pick the third up with your foot. At 3 was the place where I started feeling oh, this is actually costing me my entire life. I realized it at 3 that, the life that I was building, I thought I was building it for me and maybe my wife. But the reality was, the life I was building was for them. I saw it in that moment, and over time, you don't give things up that quickly, right? You don't give up your life overnight. But having a third and then eventually having a fourth, and some of you have had 5 or 6. You just keep going. But eventually you find the great joy in courageously loving someone, and the great joy in sacrificing your life to courageously love someone. Well, you learn that, and you learn that there's actually a great purpose in it. You're actually maybe even designed for it. But even if it's suffering, and in our life it certainly has been suffering at some points, certainly. But even in that suffering, you end the day and you go to sleep, and you try to go to sleep, but then the baby wakes you up. But you go to the end of your day, whenever the end comes, and sometimes it doesn't come, but you get to the end and you go, I'm living this the way I'm supposed to. I'm living this the way I'm supposed to. I really am. This is what I'm made for, and it's awful sometimes, but it's also what I'm made for. And we look at Jesus. I mean, we just did communion, guys. Looking unto Jesus. I mean, he's the example, right? He's the example. And it doesn't mean that Jesus didn't get things from the Father or whatever. It just means that at the end of all of it, he had to empty himself fully. There was no place for self-centeredness in Jesus' life at all. 0. At the end of it, it was all about the Father's love coming through him and his love for you. And he'd do it again. And he'd do it again. And he'd do it again if he had to. But that's what it comes down to. I'm going to get dangerous today. Hope you guys are okay with that. Did anyone bring tomatoes? I won't get dangerous if someone brought tomatoes. No throwing them. Topically, it's very interesting. As I was thinking about parenthood, my brain just goes weird places as I prayed. I was thinking about birth control, which is a weird topic. But I was thinking, well, some of you guys know if you grew up Catholic or you came from a Catholic background, or you know that the Catholics are very much, like, birth control is a no-no in Catholic circles, right? Like, it's always been that way, still is today. It's like, no. And I've even got some friends who, like, their spouse was Catholic, and the person they were going to marry, and then they did, marriage counseling, and the priest was like, all right, if we're going to marry you in a Catholic church, you're not allowed to use birth control. And they were like, wait, hold on a second, wait, what? It's like hard stop, But most people don't actually know, like, the history behind, how we got to the place where, at least in our modern culture, it's kind of like, well, of course you use birth control. Like, of course you do. But really, that's more of like actually a newer idea. That really, even outside of Catholic circles, Protestant churches, which broke away from the Catholic Church, even they were opposed to it for a long time. And don't worry, I'm not trying to scare you and say don't use birth control, okay? I actually believe it's okay and good to use, okay? Follow me here. Protestants, they were still like, no, it's a no-no, until like in the 1940s, I can't remember the date, I think it was like in the maybe 1945, the Anglican Church was the first one to provide some allowances for, like, hey, if there's, like, extenuating circumstances here, or, like, maybe the health of the mother, or, like, there's a lot of reasons that you might want to use this, or maybe you've got 9 kids already, and it's like, dear God, it's like, there was some openness there from the Anglican Church, and then as soon as the Anglicans did it, the other Protestant churches, the denominations followed, and truthfully, and when you look at Scripture, there's not really, at least in my view, a Catholic would argue with me, but I think I would win the argument. We always think we'd win the argument, even if we wouldn't. But I don't think there's very much scriptural basis for a command that says you're not allowed to use birth control. Like, I don't think there's much there, truthfully. I look at it and I go, there's a lot of tradition and a lot of history, but what Scripture says, it doesn't really stand up to scrutiny very much at all. But there is one verse and one concept that I think is very interesting. One of the arguments that's made around children is, and not using birth control, is there's a verse that says, children are a blessing from the Lord. And blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. And so, well, the argument goes, if children are a blessing, why would you stop a blessing? Right? That's the argument that gets thrown out. And not thrown out, I should be more kind to people who make that argument. And there is a kernel of truth in there that children are a blessing. There is a kernel of that. But I look at this and I say, what is the blessing that a child brings us? Well, the child might bring you joy. The child might bring you a nice snuggle from time to time. But really, children often bring us just a lot of suffering. if we're honest. I mean, they do. And they require of us, this whole poem I wrote about sacrifice and laying down your life for your kids, right? I mean, this is a whole thing. What is the blessing? Well, I think all of that is part of the blessing that a child brings you, is that they put you in a position where you finally have to love, like for real. Not with selfish motives attached, but like you actually have to, if you're going to love them, lay yourself aside, put yourself behind you, and go, I'm going to give you everything I got, even if it hurts, even if I have to stay awake at night because you won't sleep, even if you threw up in your bed and it's 2:30 in the morning and I'm cleaning this mess up and trying to find a place for you to sleep, even if it's just pure suffering, I'm going to love you with all my heart, and I'm not going to be mad at you. I might be exhausted, but I'm going to love you with all my heart. See, the blessing of a child is not just what they give you that is you being selfish, but it's also them removing from you your own self-centeredness. That is the blessing that a child brings. And so there's a kernel of truth in there. But when I look at, it's interesting, you think about this idea of, well, is it okay to turn away a blessing then, right? Like that's kind of the argument. And I would say, yeah, of course it is. You look at Paul in the New Testament. Paul mentions the fact that he had every opportunity, if he wanted to get married and take along a believing wife, right? He brings up this argument and he talks about that. But he chose not to. But Scripture also says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And every good and perfect gift comes from above, right? So if you're finding something good and it's truly good, that's a gift from God, because every good thing comes from God, okay? So did Paul turn away a blessing? He absolutely did. And on top of the blessing of marriage that he turned away, because he didn't get married, he also turned away the blessing of having children, did he not? So Paul kind of sets the precedent of, yes, absolutely, it's okay to turn, if God might have responsibilities that are blessings to you, he might, right? That's another way of thinking about responsibility. Responsibility is a blessing. It's not just something that is like, oh, I've got these heavy responsibilities. No, like that is a blessing to you. And so, but the question is this, why did Paul turn it away? Why did he choose not to partake in these sort of familial sorts of relationships? And he gives a pretty clear picture of why. What he says is, he's doing it for the church. Because if he was married, his attention would be split. He'd be focusing on how to help his wife as well, which is right. But the reason he doesn't marry is because he knows that if he does, the attention's going to be split. And now he's going to be like, I've got to take care of God's church and then also my wife, and it would just be a split thing. And it's okay if it's a split thing, that's totally fine. But what he's arguing is, I'm able to fully give myself to this blessing over here. I'm able to jump in, dive in fully to this area, this blessing that he's given me, and I'm going to give it everything I got. That's Paul. So anyway, I'm saying all of this. Here's the end point, though, guys. Here's the end point. And I want you to expand this maybe in your own mind beyond birth control, beyond the strange places my brain goes, maybe into your own experience. Maybe into your own responsibilities, maybe into your own spaces where you have blessings from God that require you. And maybe into places where we turn away blessings from God that are responsibilities. And I want to ask this question, and this is for everybody here, every single person. And maybe this is for the broader culture too that we're in. I'm concerned about this in our broader culture. I'm concerned about this in the generations that are coming up. Are we turning away the blessings of God not because we're like Paul and we want to pour ourselves into the real blessing that he's given us over here? Are we turning away the blessings of God, the children, spiritual or real? Are we turning them away not because he has a blessing for us, but because we want to spend our life on being self-centered? That is the question. I think birth control is fine, but not if we're going to spend our life on being self-centered. Get what I'm saying? And the reason it's not okay, it's not about what God wants. I mean, well, it is, but it's about what he wants for your life. He wants you to be fulfilled and full of purpose and full of destiny. And if your life is just fixated on yourself, guys, what a terrible life that is. Well, that's a terrible thing. And I'm concerned in the culture that we're living in that that's becoming more and more the norm. We're not willing to take on the responsibilities God has for us because it costs us something. It costs us sacrifice. We don't want to learn how to love. We don't want the pain of loving. We look at Jesus on the cross and say, thank God it's him, not me. Well, to an extent, yeah, but you've got a cross to bear as well, don't you? Pick up your cross daily. Paul says, I die daily. There's something in that. And look, here's the maybe other part of this. I was hearing this story the other day. Well, I don't even know if this is a true story. I think it's probably made up, but it's a good story. Two lumberjacks were... Yeah, well, before I get man, God loves you guys. I mean, he just loves you, like big time. He's not mad at you for anything. He loves you big time, okay? Two lumberjacks. They chopping wood, chopping trees down, and they both were working 8 hours days every day of the week. Every day, 8-hour days. And they'd take, a half-hour lunch in the middle of the day and then go back to chopping more wood. One of the lumberjacks, every day, only one of them would go away for an hour and just go home. Right in the middle of the day, after lunch, go home for an hour and come back, and after the hour, come back and chop more wood. And it turns out that person who'd go home every day would come back and chop more wood than the other guy who was there the full time. You look at their production, you say the guy who went home and skipped an hour of work, that's the guy who's being more productive. How's that possible? So someone asks him and he goes, hey, what are you doing when you go home that's making you more productive? And he goes, well, I'm not just going home, I'm sharpening my axe. So God doesn't call you to be a workaholic either. Right? Laying down your life, giving yourself in courageous love. He's not saying go and produce. It's not that. What he's saying is you have a purpose, you have a destiny, you have a calling. And sometimes within that purpose and destiny and calling, it means I got to take a day. I got to take a week or a month in some cases, or a season. I got to just get some space here so my axe can be sharpened. Well, this is why oftentimes pastors take sabbaticals, is to sharpen the axe. It's not just to say, hey, go on a nice vacation. I mean, it is, but not really. It's, hey, we want you to be fulfilled and productive in your role, so go sharpen your axe. Go get that thing ready to go. That's big. And we need that in our life too, okay? Let's do, because what we're talking about today, and we've been talking about, our core values, one of which is fearless humility. We've been talking about it for a long time. I want to talk about courageous love, though. Courageous love is one that we have not really talked about. One of the crucial elements of courageous love is that it will be eventually, even if it's not at the start, it will be sacrificial. It finds great purpose in that sacrifice, in that it lifts up the people around us. We often run from sacrifice because sacrifice means giving of ourselves. But sacrifice is really the only way that you get to be a part of God's love happening in the earth. And we're all working to create a place where love belongs here on earth. So I've got up here, this is a lot of words. You'll see courageous love there. It's one of our core values at the top. Yeah, it's kind of like over to the side. So we're going to be talking about that over the coming weeks. All of these filter into our mission, and you've seen this mission if you've come here before. We throw it up on the screen quite often. It's to know and share the vibrant hope of Christ every day. That's our here and now. That's what we do. When we wake up in the morning, it's knowing the hope, the real hope that comes in knowing Jesus and sharing that with the people around us. That's our everyday experience. But as we move forward, our long-term vision, think like 10 years down the road. What are we trying to accomplish in the earth? What does God put us here for? Well, it's to know Him, it's to receive His love, yeah. But why do we exist here? What's the long-term purpose? Whereas the mission is our daily expression of what God's called us to as a church, the vision is where we're going to end up if we live the mission, if we do it, if we're active in it. And that vision is to become a driving force, revitalizing and restoring our families and communities. To become so full of hope every day that it's actually nothing can stop what God wants to do through you. To become so driven in that, not in vain ambition, but in His love and mercy and grace and hope, to have that so flowing out of our life that literally nothing can stop Him from restoring our family, from restoring our community, from revitalizing and bringing life into the world. To live it out so intentionally every day that entire regions are transformed because there's just people who will not stop hoping in Jesus, regardless of circumstance. That's where we're heading. We're probably not there, guys. I don't know about you, but I was talking to some friends, they're like, how are you doing, Jack? I'm like, well, I'm doing pretty good. But I tell you what, every Monday, I have like a really bad day. I don't know what it is. I just show up Monday and my attitude's terrible. It's just so bad. And I'm like, God, help me do it. Help me do it better. So I can tell you, like me personally, the guy telling you to be hopeful, I don't always have it, but we're going to get there. We're not going to give up on that. We're going to live with the vibrant hope of Christ in our heart, and that's going to transform the world around us. And this is important as we look at our future and as a church, as we look at where we're headed and what God has for us. It's very important. I'm going to throw up a slide here next, and it's going to have kind of a range of experiences on it, okay? Ranging from disaster to euphoria. This is the experience that you may have when you encounter change. Everybody's different. Everybody views change differently. Some people, when change comes, it doesn't even matter what the change is. They see change and they go, that is terrible. I hate change. There's more people who dislike change than like it, truthfully. But there are some people, my brother-in-law, John, is probably this way. A lot of you guys know John. It's like change is like euphoria. Oh, things are changing. Oh, that's great. It's like, oh, yes. Because they just have this really optimistic perspective about change. Change means something better's coming. Always. But then there's others, and I probably, if I'm honest, I look at this, and God's helped me with this over the years. I probably still lean a little pessimistic on change. Not like crazy, not like in the dumps or whatever, but I probably am like, oh, it's probably my corporate experience where, you know, we jokingly call it the upgrade downgrade. Anytime they upgrade a system, you know it's going to be a downgrade. Like there is, but that's pessimism. Okay, so ranging from disaster to euphoria, assess yourself. Well, and this one's interesting too. Sometimes change that we initiate, we're more optimistic about. Change that somebody else initiates, that's disastrous. It's like, but assess yourself. Where do you land on this scale of change? When you encounter change, when change is imposed upon you, when you decide to make changes, how do you react? It's good to know that. It's good to know that. One thing that has been brewing in my heart for probably the past 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, I felt like earlier this year, maybe it was even last year, I felt like God put this in my heart, like, hey, Jack, you guys need to start looking for a new building. And it didn't mean that we were moving. I didn't hear him say, you are moving. But what I heard him say is, hey, you need to get people, you need to get a committee going. You need to get people looking for buildings. And I don't think this was just pragmatism or practicality. We had a 5-year lease on this building starting in 2020. Yeah, it was COVID, right? And so we had a 5-year lease that was up in July. And we had talked as leaders and thought, okay, we'll probably try to re-up the lease at least another year. But we want to be looking for another property just in case God has something for us. And so the building committee has been looking at a lot of different spaces, a lot of different church buildings. Haven't found anything as far as church buildings go that make much sense for us. Haven't found commercial spaces. Commercial spaces like 3 times what we pay here. But at the end of June here, beginning of July, our lease in this building is up. And so we contacted AG, and AG, Assemblies of God, their finance arm owns this building. Okay, so we've been leasing from them. And so anyway, they reached out and they're like, hey guys, your lease is up. Do you want to buy the place? Is what they were asking. I'm just going to try to be transparent about where things are at, okay, guys? You good with that? All right. And truthfully, in my heart, I'm going, I don't think we want to buy this place. It's got some foundational issues. There's some problems with it. We like certain aspects of it, and certain aspects of it we don't. We've lived here for quite some time, but I don't think this is our long-term home. And so we said, well, you know what? We'd like to lease it another year maybe, right? That's maybe where we're at. Can we start leasing for another year? And the AG is very much wanting to sell this place. And so if we could put the next slide up here, this is our building. They're asking $875,000 for it. It is currently listed because they want to sell it. They don't want to own it, all right? They don't want to own it and lease it to anybody. They want to sell it, period. And we're not in a position where, I personally do not believe this is the long-term space for us. Based on a lot of prayer, talking with the other leaders in our church, thankful for John and John's heart here. This has been in his heart probably longer than mine, that I don't think we're supposed to be here long-term, okay? Now, that doesn't mean we're moving tomorrow. It just means I don't think we're supposed to be here long-term. I really don't. I don't believe this is the space for us. So that's the first thing, is from a spiritual, directional vision perspective for our church, I don't think this is the place where we plant our roots down deep and we grow here, okay? However, I will say this, and on top of that, they're asking for a mite bit more than we would probably want to pay for this, $875,000. We're probably not there. Not probably, we're not there, okay? That's just reality, okay? And I want to say this as we're talking about these sort of practical matters in church. Pragmatism is not the same thing as wisdom from God. Pragmatism could just be earthly wisdom that people can have, okay? But also on the other side of that, where pragmatism is not necessarily wisdom from God, neither is baseless optimism, hope, or faith. We have to be a good steward of what God's given us is to trust Him with things and to be willing to hear His heart and see the signposts that He gives us and walk well on the earth. And walking well on the earth means acknowledging reality and acknowledging the spiritual as well and taking it all together as one thing, all right? And sometimes God has you oppose natural forces, and sometimes natural forces are God pointing you in a direction, all right? And I would say this, that we can't land on either side where we're going to be baselessly optimistic calling that faith or pragmatic calling that spiritual wisdom, okay? We live in that awkward middle ground where we're assessing where God is and where He has us right now, okay? I'm going to give some more. Here's just some more things. I want to give this to you. Average weekly giving for 2025. These are more facts. One thing that we want to be, I want this badly. I want to be more transparent financially as a church. Most people don't really know what's going on financially, except for like the senior leadership, finance team, pastors. But I want everybody to be able to see and know what's going on. I think that's right as a church, just to see and know. So we've made some pretty substantial changes to our spending over the past year and a half. Much of that has been changes to salaries, right? That's kind of well known, I think. But also, and I want to thank Mike for doing the work on this. Mike negotiated with the AG and Assemblies of God. They're not going to just sell the property out from underneath us. We're going to be going month to month and leasing with them, at least to start at the end of June, starting in July, we'll have a new lease agreement. Previously, we had been paying $4,500 a month in lease payments for that was 2024. We negotiated with them, we're going to be paying $3,750 a month, okay? So brought the price down. And also they gave us the guarantee that if they sell the place, we have 60 days, and they're not just going to kick us out on the street. We have 60 days to kind of pack up and do all of that, okay? So that is an agreement, and nobody knows, and we can't pretend to know when this place is going to sell, or if it's going to sell. We have no idea, okay? But we do know that it's on the market, and there have been quite a few people who've already walked through and checked it out, all right? But I'm going to give you this. Average weekly giving for 2025, it's about $2,990 per week. And then the average projected weekly expense, and the reason we're saying projected is we've made quite a few changes to our costs over the past year, and they've been substantial, so we're not going to give historically what the average expense has been. We're going to look forward and say, what is it now? And we project it to be about $3,550, and that is with the reduction in lease that we just worked out with AG, okay? It's going to be somewhere in that neighborhood. So as you can see, there's a gap. It's about $550, $600, somewhere in that range a month, okay? We don't avoid reality. We don't avoid things like this. To avoid things like this is to stick your head in the sand. We see them and we bring them to Jesus. It's a big thing, isn't it? Because here's the thing. We could try to just ignore reality and just say, well, we're just going to push through it, guys. Oh, that's not trusting him. That's just running from reality. We're not just going to run from reality. We're going to take reality and we're going to trust him and say, hey, God, this is where we are, where we live. I'm going to trust you with it. Okay. So, saying all that to say, and that those figures are excluding some large one-time gifts and non-reoccurring expenses, okay? Because there were a couple large one-time gifts that won't be reoccurring in the future. So, financially, we're in an okay spot. We're going to be okay till the end of the year, but we do need to consider our future and think about what we're doing and why. The building committee, many of you know John Glenn is an option for us. The building committee found John Glenn, whereas currently we pay a lot of utilities here. We pay for the dumpster trash pickup. In total, we're looking at probably monthly just to have this space. It's about, even with reduction in rent, we're looking at about $6,000 a month, somewhere in there. Maybe a little more than that. Probably more than that, for sure more than that. But it's $6,000, $6,500, somewhere in that range. If we go to John Glenn, it's $2,500 flat, okay? But I'm going to be honest about John Glenn. John Glenn doesn't have all the things that we have here. For example, it doesn't have those sensory rooms for special needs kids. That's a big thing. From my heart, that's a big thing. We don't have that. And we're talking about courageous love here, guys. And as we talk about these big decisions and big things, one of the things as a leader is sort of like parenting. You can't just think about what's best for me. Like, what do I want? Well, I mean, when you take on leadership, you realize it doesn't matter if you're going to be a good leader. It doesn't matter what you want. You see the whole scope of everything. In this building, guys, I see the scope of the work that's done on a week-to-week basis. I know Tim's in here keeping track of this building, maintenance, everything that we need here. Him and Scott have been taking care of for years. I appreciate that. I see that. I see the work that the cleaning crews do that come in, people who volunteered to clean, Sherry and everybody who works on cleaning this building on a weekly basis. The hours of work that you guys put in, it matters. Everybody who's put in time to make this space what we wanted it to be in this season, hours and hours of work, that's not ignored. We see it. We also need to see, and it's important to see, the difficulty and challenge of moving to a new space. If we were to move to John Glenn, and I haven't made up my mind yet, I'm still praying about it, but if we were to move to John Glenn, there would be a lot more work setting up every Sunday. So that weekly work, that is hours and hours of work weekly, that gets moved to a very compressed time period on Sunday where we've got to set up whatever the sanctuary is. We've got to set up all the different spaces for kids. We've got a lot of setup for coffee carts and other things. And we've got to tear it all down because school's going to be there in the auditorium the next day, right? So there's a lot of work to be done if you go into that space. It doesn't mean that work isn't happening here. It just means it's different and it's happening there, okay? And what I want us to do as a congregation is find unity on this, that we care about what people have to do and what they have to sacrifice and give up in the spaces they're in right now and in the spaces we may be in the future. We need to care about that. It can't just be Kevin and Valita caring about special needs kids and the challenges of a new space on special needs kids. It can't just be them and a few of the special needs advocates that we have in our church. It can't be that. We got to come together as a church and go, that really matters. Because those kids come in here, and for you, it's a new space, and maybe that kind of throws you off kilter. For them, it's like 10 times that. Coming into a new space, what is this? I thought this was church, feeling dysregulated. And who knows what it sounds like, feels like, who knows where they're at. But as a church, we would have to be like, no, guys, we got to support them and do whatever it takes to make sure that they're taken care of. That's unity. That's love. And even in this, guys, even in where we're at now, it's like, as I pray for our church, I'm praying for unity for our church every day. Do you know that? for unity, that we'd all sing with one voice and speak with one voice. I'm praying for unity over you guys. Can I get dangerous, Mike? Will you allow it? He goes, go for it. Well, you're saying yeah, but okay. Here's the deal, guys. Can we talk sound for a second? Oh, everybody, we're laughing now. Everybody's got an opinion on what it should sound like, how loud it should be, how quiet it should be. I get it. And everybody's right. Everybody's right. That's one of my favorite artists. One of his songs, he's talking about some church stuff. It's not that, but one of his lines is he says, "Nobody's right and nobody's wrong. They're all just looking for a place to belong." And I think that is just so spot on with stuff like this. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. We're all just looking for a place to belong. And I get it. I get that you're right. And as I say, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. You know, I'm right. Okay, I get it. But you know what is actually right? What is actually right is finding a space where we can have unity in our worship and where we can all sing with one voice to God, our pure heart to Him. That is right. And anything outside of that, we got to get over it a little bit. Okay, I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I'm not saying that your opinions are invalid or whatever. I'm just saying, guys, I hear it from all sides. I hear, and it's all good. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm just saying, listen, the church has been around for longer than we have. 2,000 years of church history, at least. I mean, and beyond that, even in Jewish time, praising God. Speakers didn't even exist until, like 100 years ago or so? I mean, maybe they had those big, ugly, loud shofars. Maybe they're worshiping in a cave and somebody's got the shofar and it's like, it's that terrible instrument. It's a trumpet. It's a trumpet that sounds like a dying cow. If you don't know what it is. But here's the thing: churches have been worshiping in all sorts of settings, in houses, in caves, in catacombs, underground, on the sides of hills, outside, in buildings more echoey than this building, which frankly, maybe God put us partly in this space so that we could experience, because these walls, they don't absorb sound, so the sound just bounces everywhere. I mean, I feel so bad for the sound guys. It's like, how do you make sound good in this space? It's not great for sound, right? It's echoing all over. But here's what I'm trying to get at is this. If we have to find perfect, you know what I mean? We got to find perfect decibel in order to worship Him. I mean, I should be able to get up here with a kazoo, guys, and I should be able to get up with a kazoo and play "Great is Thy Faithfulness." And everybody in here who's walked through their life over the past week and seen the faithfulness of God, or maybe they're still waiting on God to come through for them, but they're singing it out in faith, they should be able to connect with that and sing from all they've got in them, from the bottom of their soul. And you know what? Like, I might even do it, guys. I might even do it. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have to be a certain volume. It doesn't have to be loud or quiet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be sound. It'd sound terrible. Are you kidding me? That sounds terrible. But maybe what I'll do is I'll get out my kazoo and I'll do this every week until everyone gets so mad at me about playing the kazoo that at least then we're unified on sound. Maybe that's the answer, okay? Because it's like those shows you watch where you got two competing factions and then there's the one really bad guy who comes and then they join forces. I'll be that really bad guy with my kazoo. I'll do it. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Hear my pastor's heart for you. I want you to be able to show up every Sunday and give your heart to Jesus all over again and really let it rip. Mike laughs because he's a golf guy, and sometimes we leave for the prayer room and I say, grip it and rip it, guys. Let's grip it and rip it. It's like, I want you to be able to come to Sunday and just grip it and rip it, man. Just your heart just pouring out to God. You know? Just your heart pouring out to God. That is it. That's it. And so, I wanted to give you guys an update on where we are and where we're going. But wherever it is that we are and we're going, we got to do it united. Anything outside of unison, I don't want our songs to be division. If our praise to God is division, that's pretty nasty. Our praise to Him is unity. It's one voice. We're one people, one purpose, one mission. Let us go, God. Let us just go to you. Yeah. I'm going to pray over you guys. God, I pray for these wonderful people, all of them, every single one of them. I pray for everybody here, God, every single person, that you'd fill them with love, because that's all that matters. We open our life right now, God. We open it right now, and we ask you to fill us with your love for us, and also our love for each other. Just real quick, guys, I know we're running a couple minutes late, but, maybe, I don't know what time it is. Yeah, probably going to be a couple minutes late. Sorry about this, but this matters. And Jana is reading this book about reading aloud to your kids. We're planning on homeschooling Gideon and Teddy next year, which is kind of a big leap for us. They've been in a school that, but we feel like it's right for them. And so, that's personal choice, by the way, right? That's not me promoting homeschooling. It's just saying I think it's right for us. But she's reading this book, and they're talking about read alouds, and they're talking about teaching kids. And this quote has just kind of jumped off the page to me. Do we teach children so that they can outperform their peers? So they can rank higher, get promoted faster, become more financially successful than their colleagues and friends? Or do we want our children to become educated so they can follow the two greatest commandments, love God and love one another? A good education, then, is not one that results in high test scores, elite college acceptances, or the ability to read Virgil in Latin or War and Peace without Cliff Notes. A good education teaches us and our children to love fully and to love well. We can do it right, whatever right is. We can be in the right building. We can have the right financial structure. We can play songs at the right volume, whatever right is, I don't know. We can do all the right things, but if we don't have love, we've got squat diddly nothing. If we don't have love for each other, if we've got disunity and all sorts of stuff, we got nothing. No reason to grow if there's not love. So what we're going to do as a church, and we're going to do it. It doesn't matter where we're doing it, but we're going to do it. We're going to create a space where love belongs. Love belongs in our community. Love belongs in our worship. Love belongs in my preaching. Love belongs in all of it. Love belongs here. And that's not me saying that we've been unloving. I think in a lot of ways we've been really loving. But it is saying that I think we have room to grow in loving each other and caring for each other as a body and the difficulty that everybody has to go through. I love you guys. I care about you. I care about what you care about. But we're going to go forward as a church together, caring about everybody, because that brings unity.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. We hope you leave here closer to the Lord and encouraged in your faith. If you would like to support our ministry, you can go to themergecc.com and click on the donate button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, and God bless.